Next up, I'm going to show you how to create a slideshow in InDesign. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take these three items right here and we're going to make a slideshow out of them. So the very first thing I want to do is I'm going to select all three of them, click on this one right here and make that the key object. Then I'm going to go up to Windows. I'm going to drop down to Objects and Layout and slide over to Align so that I have my Align dialog box. Then what I'm going to do, since this is the key object, I'm going to make sure that all of them are centered one on top of the next. All right? And now that I have them centered one on top of the other, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to scale them up so that they can be a little bit larger and then center them toward the bottom of the page. While all three of them are still selected, I'm going to swipe just to make sure they're all selected. I'm going to put the mouse in the lower right hand corner. I am going to select Shift and Command so that as I scale, I'm scaling not only just the frames, but I'm scaling the contents within the frames. So I'm just going to scale them, make them larger. And then I'm going to center them on the page. So I will make sure that where it says Align to, I'll say Align to Margins. And then I'll click this second icon here that will center it horizontally. So now I have all three of them stacked on top of each other and they are centered on the page. The next thing I want to do is go up to Windows, drop down to Interactive, and slide over to where it says Object States, and I'm going to bring up this dialog box right here. Okay. Now it's all grayed out. There's nothing here because nothing is selected. I am going to select, I'm going to swipe and select all three of these items, because remember, they're all stacked one on top of the other. Then when I tap on this little tab right here, you'll notice that we see the dotted line that goes around these images, and it says here all of these states are selected. All right, and it gives this object state a name, and we're going to call this one, I'll call it multi-state 1. All right, so that's going to be the name that we're going to give it. So now that we have that, we're going to go to the next step. Like any slideshow, in order for that slideshow to work, it needs some sort of a trigger. So the next step is to go up to Windows, drop down to Interactive, slide over to Buttons and Forms, and then now we're going to actually create triggers. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to select this arrow that is pointing to the left. And then where it says Type, I'm going to click on, I want it to be a button. Okay, so now that I have that button selected, I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call this one, I'll call that Previous. That's the name of that button. Then I'm going to go down to where it says Event, and I'll say, okay, well, I'll keep that where it is. We'll keep that where it is. So in other words, that's what it's going to do. It's going to release or you tap on it, and that's what we want. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the actual actions. So what I want to do is I'm going to say go to previous state. All right, so let's see, go to previous state. We'll click on that. All right, and then the next thing I want to do is I'm going to click on, and as you can see, when I say go to previous state, the object is going to be multi-state 1, which is the actual state group that we have. So I'm going to click on this arrow here. I'm going to give it a type. I want it to be a button. I'm going to call this one next. We'll keep that on, release, or tap. We'll click on this and we'll say go to next state. And we'll click on that. And again, it's going to be the multi-state one. That's going to be the grouping. Now also, I'm going to do a few other things with it as well. You know what? No, I'll keep it where it is. So let's test that and see what happens. I'm going to click on the preview, click on this, and it's going to bring up this preview window. And let's see how this works. So here we have our document. I tap here, and it's doing that. It's going to the next one. I tap this one, and it's going that way. So it looks like it's working the way we want it to work.